Hi guys, and welcome to my review of round one of the new 2019 Formula One World Championship in Austria. Obviously, after a long wait, we finally have our first Grand Prix weekend, and it's been just finished now, and it's a jammed packed weekend full of protests from teams. Um, Qualifying shocks, and the race itself full of incidents, loads of retirements, um, and proving that actually, though it's only 10 corners, the Spielberg circuit is a very tough race to win. So, going to take it step by step. Let's go into Friday. Obviously, everyone really excited to be back racing. With obviously the new stringent rules. Though the stringent rules were in place for COVID-19, it really didn't make much of a difference. The only difference really being the lack of fans there. Um, but in terms of the actual running of the weekend, it was very successful. Um, Red Bull start with Red Bull because they immediately protested to the stewards at the Austrian Grand Prix that the DAS system that Mercedes had come up with in pre-season testing was deemed was to be illegal and should be banned and taken off the SIP car. Now, the DAS system, or dual axis steering system, really helps them generate temperature and as well as help with uh, I did say before it had something to do with the straight line speed of the car, and I do apologise. I think I was wrong on that. Apparently, looking into it now, is that when it was used in the race, it was mainly for when the safety car to help generate more tyre temperature. Um, but I think even if it was on the car or not, Mercedes were clearly dominant this weekend, and Red Bull were third and fourth fastest, not mixing it with the Mercedes. But coming from practice, there was a shock of Ferrari being very seemed to be struggling. Though last year they were on pole with their straight line speed, they were struggling this weekend, and it's been even down on power, and they've been down on power since there has been a clarification within the rules by the other teams during the United States Grand Prix. So since then, they've been down on power. Now, whether that means they've been doing something illegal or not remains to be seen. We'll probably never know. But they have seemed to be struggling. And apparently, now that they're not going to have the updates that they need to improve the car until the third race of the season, which will be the Hungarian Grand Prix. So they're kind of stuck like this, and it proved a massive shock in qualifying. Because Vettel was out in Q2. Leclerc by the end of Q3 was only P7. And though they were showing this in practice, everyone thought that, yeah, they'll turn the wick up and they'll be at least behind Red Bull and be the third place team. Not believing that Racing Point and McLaren were ahead of them, and clearly they were. But up the front, Bottas got pole position, Hamilton second, which was later deemed to be fifth because apparently after a review with evidence, it showed that he had not slowed down enough for the yellow flags when Bottas went off the road in his final run. So it meant that he had to take a three place grid penalty and drop to fifth. So it meant Max Verstappen started second with I think it was Albon third and Lando Norris fourth, and then Hamilton fifth. and obviously started the Grand Prix. Everyone showed their solidarity in the Black Lives Matter movement. Hence the hashtag We Race as One, as now F1 tries to look to be more diverse. Um, so yeah, so we go into the Grand Prix itself. Even start by everyone. Not everyone didn't seem to have a great start, but no one seemed to really have a bad start, particularly at the front. Immediately, Norris was struggling and quickly fell behind Hamilton, who then chased after and caught Albon and overtook them. And it was clear to show that despite Red Bull doing their best to mix it with them, they weren't going to be able to match their pace. By lap 11, though, Max Verstappen became the first of a long list of retirees. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that's bad. I'm not going to sit there and not say I didn't smile, because I've never liked Verstappen, to be honest. He's very arrogant. He's very arrogant. Not really. He's very. I feel that he doesn't give a lot of drivers a lot of respect, especially racing respect. Um, so yeah, and I think he is very big-headed. He is a great talent. Don't get me wrong, he's a great talent, but I think he needs to calm himself down in a way at the minute. So, but obviously, as the race gone on, more retirees such as Daniel Ricciardo then retired. The two Hasses ended up with brake failures. One of the Hasses caused the safety car, which led to the first pit stops, which was around lap 24, 25, 26, somewhere around there. And it looked like it was going to be a comfortable afternoon for the Mercedes, while everyone else was having their own personal battles up front. But during pretty much by the 40th lap, we were getting messages from Mercedes pit wall that they were critical on their sensors in terms of the gearbox. And this is because of the very aggressive curbs at Austria, which was causing probably a lot of retirements, and it ended up causing, I think, 9 retirements in total in this race, because this track, because of its curbs, has been known to be a bit of a car breaker. It's actually where last time Mercedes had a double retirement. So they were told not to use certain curbs. Then they were told not to use curbs completely. And then when George Russell retired, they obviously didn't have enough time to be able to dive in the pits and get a fresh set of boots on. So it meant, in particular, Albon behind in fourth, who was third, dropped to fourth because he ended up rolling the dice and putting a fresh set of softs on. Ended up behind Perez and in prime position to not attack not just Perez but the two Mercedes, knowing that they couldn't use the curbs to be able to defend aggressively. So when the race restarted, there was immediately another safety car with Raikkonen. Albon managed to get Perez overtake done before the safety car came out for that, which meant he was in prime position to attack the two Mercedes. So once the restart happened again, we got down. He was already on the tail of Hamilton, who was obviously being backed up by Bottas as he became the pace car at the restart. And Albon saw opportunity into turn 4, and despite Hamilton's best efforts not to try and leave him enough space, had caught the rear tyre as Albon was ahead of him and span Albon round, a bit similar to what happened to him in Brazil. Now, it meant that Hamilton got a 5-second penalty. My opinion is, I don't think it is a bit, I'd say a bit harsh, because Hamilton couldn't do much else. He couldn't turn anymore. He didn't turn into him. But if you don't leave the racing room and he's clearly ahead of you, then and you spin him, then you're going to have to take the punishment. And I'm sure later on Hamilton will apologise, because that's what he did in Brazil, and that's what he does pretty much every time that he makes a mistake like that, and he knows it is his fault. But it gave him a 5-second penalty, which meant that Norris had the chance to get the podium position. And he managed to get the move on Perez done so that he can be in prime position for that. Now, I don't know why Mercedes didn't just let Hamilton by Bottas and let Bottas sort of back the pack up and give Hamilton the 5-second gap he needs, so that Mercedes could have the 1-2. They decided not to do that, which meant Hamilton missed out on the podium by 0.2 of a second to end up fourth. And despite a horrible weekend, Leclerc ended up getting second place. After the miserable weekend Ferrari had, and probably the miserable weekend they're going to have next weekend, they managed to get second place out of that result. And third went to Lando Norris, which is his first podium in Formula One. And fair play to him, he's a really nice guy, very fast driver, very great talent, and deserves his podium position. And yeah, it just shows that this this Grand Prix is an absolute epic Grand Prix. It's been a very good Grand Prix for a number of years since its return in 2014. So great way to start the championship. And obviously it's every race obviously is going to be key, because we don't know how long the race season will last. At the moment there's 8 races, we don't know if there's going to be any more. So every point counts. So Bottas off to the best start, Hamilton a bit on the back foot, but he has been on the back foot before and been able to claw it back. So yeah, so driver of the day for me would be Lando Norris, to be honest. He's my driver of the day. They went with Alex Albon, but for me, Norris drove supremely well, made the critical moves that he needed to get to the podium position. So for me, he's driver of the day. Let me know if you agree or not. Leave a like on this video. Comment on how did you find the opening race of the season, and the incidents and all the drama that went with it. So yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll speak to you guys soon with another preview on round 2 at the same venue, but under a different name.